All right, welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be exploring something that I think you're really going to love.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's video games.
Yeah.
You've wanted to know more about how they're actually made right?
Yeah, that's always sort of a mystery. Like, how do they do all that?
Yeah, so to do that, we're going to zoom in on, like, the heart of it all. Game engines.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever, like, stopped mid-game and just, like, marveled at, like, how realistic the lighting is? Or, like, how objects move so naturally?
I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think about it while I'm playing the game, but I definitely notice it.
Yeah, that's the game engine working its magic behind the scenes.
Oh, okay.
Let's break down what a game engine actually is.
Okay, so, like, what's going on under the hood?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What is this thing?
Right.
So, what is a game engine?
So basically, it's a really powerful piece of software. It's got all the essential tools that developers need to actually build a video game.
So it's kind of like a full box?
It is like a toolbox. It's filled with all these pre-made components and systems, so developers don't have to start from scratch every single time.
Okay, so I don't have to like reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what would be like a good analogy for this?
So think of it like, okay, imagine building a house, right?
Okay.
The game engine is giving you the foundation, the walls, the doors, the windows.
Okay.
All the basic stuff. But instead of physical materials, it's all in code and like digital tools.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Nice.
So it's giving the developers like ready-made elements so they can
Yeah.
focus on like the game itself.
Exactly, the creative side of it.
So it's like,
Edit.
I don't have to worry about like plumbing and electricity. I can just focus on interior design.
That's a great way to put it.
Cool.
Hmm.
Okay. So there are different types of game engines, right?
Yeah, just like, there are different types of kitchens, you know, for different types of cooking.
Oh,
Some game engines are going to be better for realistic 3D worlds, and others are going to be great for, you know, those like charming little 2D pixel art games.
oh, okay, cool. So there's a lot of variety there.
Yep.
Okay, so let's dive into like some specific examples then.
Okay.
So I think even if you're not a game developer, you've probably heard of Unity and Unreal Engine.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are kind of like the heavy hitters in the game engine world.
Yeah, like everyone knows those.
Yeah. So what makes them different?
Okay, so Unity, known for being super user-friendly and very accessible. It's like the engine that empowers indie developers.
Okay.
Like all those like cool, innovative games you find on Steam, you know,
Right.
or in the App Store.
Yeah. Like Monument Valley, that game with all the crazy impossible architecture,
Yeah,
that was built with Unity.
it was.
Wow. And even like Angry Birds 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy that like one engine can be used to make such different experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a big part of the reason why everyone loves Unity is because it's cross-platform.
Oh, right. What does that mean again?
So that means you build the game once, and you can deploy it on PCs, consoles, phones, even VR headsets.
Wow. So it's like write once, run anywhere.
Yeah, basically. So that gives developers way more possibilities.
Right. And it also means more games for us.
Exactly.
Nice. Okay, so now Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Now this is where things get really visually impressive, right?
Yeah, so Unreal Engine is known for creating incredibly realistic graphics.
It's like if you've ever been blown away by the graphics in Fortnite
Yes.
or like the environments in the Final Fantasy VII remake,
Yeah.
that's Unreal Engine.
Yeah, Unreal's usually like the top pick for big budget, like those AAA game studios.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean it's only for like, you know, seasoned professionals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so one of the cool things about Unreal is it has something called the Blueprint system.
Oh, blueprints. I've heard about this.
Yeah, have you used it?
No, I've heard people talk about it. It's like a visual scripting language.
Yeah, so it's like, imagine creating a flowchart,
Oh,
but for game mechanics.
okay.
So instead of like writing lines of code,
Right.
you're actually connecting these nodes and like building the game's logic visually.
Oh, so it's like a more intuitive way to do it.
It can be, yeah. Especially if you're not like a coding whiz.
Right. It's more accessible.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way of democratizing game development.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if we'll see even more people creating games because of these tools that make it easier.
Yeah. I mean, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
More games.
But before we like get lost talking about the future, there's one more engine I wanted to touch on.
Oh, okay. Which one?
Godot.
Oh, yeah, Godot.
So what's really interesting to me about this is that it's completely open source
Oh, yeah.
and free to use.
Yeah, you don't have to pay anything.
So that's like a game changer,
Yeah.
especially for someone who's just starting out.
Totally.
There's no upfront costs. There's a huge community of developers. It's like a really great stepping stone. into the world of game development.
Yeah, and it's really lowering the barrier to entry.
For people who, might not have been able to afford it otherwise.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got like the powerhouses like Unity and Unreal.
Right.
And then we've got these, up and coming ones like Godot that are like shaking things up. It seems like the world of game development's like always changing.
It is, which makes it so exciting.
Yeah, who knows what's next?
Right. And as these engines get more and more powerful and easier to use,
Right.
Who knows what kind of incredible game worlds we'll be able to explore.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
But before we jump too far ahead, I kind of want to understand what's happening under the hood of these engines. Like, what are the core components that make them tick?
Oh, yeah, good question. So, like, the engine within the engine.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start with the component that brings those virtual worlds to life. On our screens, the rendering engine.
The rendering engine. Okay, so if the game engine is like the master chef's kitchen, is the rendering engine like the oven?
It's what takes all the raw ingredients, the 3D models, the textures, the lighting data, and like bakes it into the beautiful visuals that we see.
Right. Yes, that's a perfect analogy.
Okay, cool. And just like ovens, I'm assuming rendering engines have like different levels of, I don't know, sophistication.
They do, yeah.
So for example, Unreal Engine's known for its realistic lighting and shadows.
Yeah, that's a big part of why those games look so impressive.
Yeah, like think about The Last of Us Part 2.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like known for being incredibly lifelike.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I bet a lot of that comes down to the rendering engine, like being able to simulate light bouncing on surfaces and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. It's incredible what they can do.
Yeah, it really makes you feel like you're there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the rendering engine is what takes those models and turns them into this visual experience.
That transports us to another world.
Yeah, another world. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But visuals are only one piece of the puzzle, right?
That's right, yeah.
What about making those worlds feel real in terms of how things move and interact?
Right. So for that, you have the physics engine.
The physics engine.
Yeah, so it's like the laws of physics for the digital world.
So-
So like imagine in a game, you can throw objects.
Right.
The physics engine's deciding how those objects move through the air, how they bounce off walls, how they interact with other things.
So like if I'm playing Grand Theft Auto V
Oh, yeah.
and I cause this massive pileup on the highway, it's the physics engine that's calculating all those collisions.
That's right. And it makes it look believable, right?
Yeah, because sometimes those crashes can get crazy.
Oh, absolutely. The physics engine is crunching all those numbers and just making those interactions feel as real as possible.
That's awesome. But it's not just like explosions and crashes. No.
It's everything. It's how characters move,
Yeah.
how they interact with the world, climbing, jumping, even just walking on different terrains.
Okay.
It makes sure everything feels, grounded and believable.
That's fascinating.
Okay.
But we can't forget about the characters themselves, right?
That's right.
Especially like the non-playable characters, the NPCs.
Yeah.
How do they like make decisions and how do they react to what I'm doing in the game?
Right. How do they know what to do?
Yeah. Like some games have incredibly smart enemies.
Yeah, they seem like they can think.
Yeah. They'll like flank you when you least expect it. Or in like an RPG, like those friendly NPCs, they'll react differently based on your dialogue choices. Like how is that all working?
So that's where the AI engine comes in.
The AI engine.
Yeah, it's like the brains behind those NPCs. It figures out how they behave and how they interact with you and with the world around them.
So it's like it's giving them a little bit of intelligence.
Yeah, essentially.
Oh, wow. So it's the AI engine that's like making those enemies flank me and making those NPCs, react to my dialogue choices.
Yeah.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is.
Like it really makes the game feel dynamic and alive.
Yeah. And as AI technology keeps evolving, who knows what they'll be able to do in the future.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so we've got the rendering engine painting the visuals.
Right.
We've got the physics engine governing movement. And then we have the AI engine bringing those NPCs to life.
Right.
That's a lot of complex systems all working together.
It is, yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, what's the actual process of USing these engines to create a game? Like, where do developers even begin?
Well, imagine you're like an artist, starting with a blank canvas.
Okay.
So the first step is creating the game world itself, like the virtual space where the game is going to take place.
Okay, so this could be like a huge open world.
It could be, like Red Dead Redemption 2.
Right.
Or it could be something smaller, like the levels in a Metroid game.
Okay.
All those interconnected levels.
Got it. So the developers are using the game engines tools to like build the stage and set the scene.
Exactly.
They're adding all the objects and characters and like all the environmental details.
Yeah, they might sculpt mountains and valleys. They might, plant forests, construct buildings, add all kinds of interactive elements for the player to discover.
So it's like they're playing a giant game of digital Legos.
Yeah, building brick by brick.
I like that. But once the world is built, how do they make it interactive?
So that's where the magic happens.
Okay.
That's where scripting comes in, or visual scripting.
Oh, right. Like Unreal Engine's blueprints.
Yes, that's a great example. That's how developers can define the logic of the game world.
It's like they're writing the rule book for how everything works.
Exactly.
Okay.
So through scripting, whether it's traditional code or a visual system like blueprints, developers can determine what happens when you press a button, how enemies react to you, even how the story unfolds based on your choices.
So like if I'm playing The Witcher 3
Yeah.
and I decide to like help a certain village,
Right.
it's the script that decides how the villagers react.
Exactly, and how the story progresses.
And maybe even unlocks new quests or areas to explore.
Exactly, and those scripts can get so complex.
Yeah.
With the tons of branches and different outcomes depending on what you do.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
It is, but that's what gives these games a sense of depth and makes your choices feel like they really matter.
Yeah, like you're actually shaping the world around you.
Exactly.
It's really cool.
Okay.
But what about like sound effects and music? Those are a huge part of what makes a game immersive.
Oh, totally. The game engine also has tools for working with audio, so developers can create these amazing soundscapes.
Okay.
They can add environmental sounds,
Okay.
like to make a forest feel alive with birdsong and rustling leaves. Or they can use music to, heighten the tension during a boss fight.
Right. It's like they're composing a whole symphony of sounds.
Exactly,
Yeah.
to go along with the visuals. And then, of course, you've got all the sound effects that really bring those actions to life, like the clang of swords or the satisfying pop of a headshot.
Yeah, all those little details really make a difference.
They do. And all of these elements, the visuals, the physics, the AI, the sound, it all comes together to create a cohesive, immersive experience. And it's the game engine that makes it all possible.
It's incredible.
Mm.
But even with these powerful tools, I'm sure there's a lot of trial and error in game development, right? Like things don't always work perfectly the first time.
Oh, absolutely. Game development is all about iteration. But thankfully, game engines come with these great debugging tools, so developers can find and fix problems.
Okay.
They're like digital detectives.
I like that analogy. So like if a character gets stuck in a wall or a weapon doesn't fire right, the developers can use these tools to like pinpoint the problem.
Exactly. They can see what's going wrong and figure out how to fix it.
And it's an ongoing process, right?
Yeah. Constantly refining and tweaking things. They can even run simulations to see how the game performs under different conditions, make sure it runs smoothly on different hardware.
So they're really putting it through its paces.
They are. They want to make sure it's ready for the players.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so speaking of the future, where do you see game engines going from here? What are some of the advancements you're excited about?
Well, one area that's really pushing boundaries is graphics. We're seeing technologies like ray tracing and real-time global illumination becoming more common.
Okay.
And that allows for incredibly realistic lighting and reflections.
Yeah, I've seen some demos of that stuff. It's almost hard to believe it's running in real time.
It really is.
It looks like a movie.
It does, but you're in control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what kind of impact do you think these advancements will have on games?
I think games are going to become even more immersive and visually stunning.
Mm.
Imagine exploring a world where every surface reflects light accurately,
Yeah.
or shadows shift realistically with the sun. It's going to be amazing.
It could be like even harder to tell the difference between reality and virtual world.
I think so.
Okay, cool. But graphics are just one thing. What about AI?
Oh, yeah. AI has the potential to completely revolutionize game design.
In what ways?
Well, we're already seeing AI being used to generate content procedurally.
Oh,
So
interesting.
you can create these huge, varied game worlds with less effort from developers.
Oh, I see. So instead of like handcrafting every tree in a forest, the AI can just like do it automatically.
Exactly. It can analyze the environment and, populate it with realistic-looking foliage based on certain parameters.
That saves so much time.
It would, and then the developers can focus on other things.
Right.
But AI can also be used to create more dynamic gameplay. Imagine enemies that actually learn from your tactics.
Oh, wow.
and change their strategies. It would make every encounter feel unique.
Yeah, you couldn't just rely on the same old tricks to win.
Exactly. It would keep you on your toes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But all this talk about advanced graphics and AI, it makes me wonder, what about accessibility?
Yeah.
Will these powerful tools make it easier for people to get into game development? Or will it become even more difficult for people who aren't, like, technical experts?
That's a really good question. And I think it's something that developers are thinking about more and more.
Okay.
So one trend we're seeing is a focus on user-friendly interfaces and visual scripting tools like blueprints.
Right. So even if you don't know how to code, you can still make a game.
Exactly. And there are tons of online tutorials now and communities where you can connect with other developers, so it's easier than ever to learn.
That's awesome.
I think we'll see even more people from different backgrounds getting into game development, which is really exciting.
Yeah, imagine all the creativity that'll come out of that. But before we get too carried away with all these possibilities, I want to bring it back to, the present.
Okay.
What are some practical things our listeners can do if they're interested in, like, exploring the world of game engines?
Well, the best thing you can do is just download a free game engine, like Unity or Godot, and just start messing around with it.
Huh?
There are so many tutorials online. You don't need any experience to get started.
So just jump in and start experimenting.
Yeah. See what you can make.
Cool. But even if someone doesn't want to become a game developer, I think it's really cool to understand this technology.
Totally. It gives you a new appreciation for the work that goes into making games.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into game engines.
We have.
We talked about the core components, the development process, the latest advancements. We even talked about the future.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Just that the world of game engines is always evolving. It's a really exciting time to be a gamer.
And a game developer.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it seems like just yesterday we were, like, amazed by the jump from 2D to 3D graphics.
I know.
And now we're talking about photorealistic graphics and AI. It's like, what's next?
Yeah, who knows what the next big leap is going to be. One area that has a lot of potential is cloud gaming.
Cloud gaming. Okay.
Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I've heard about it.
So imagine a world where you don't need expensive hardware to play the latest games.
Okay.
You could just stream them to your phone, your TV, even a VR headset.
So the game is running on, like, some powerful server somewhere else.
Right, exactly.
And I'm just getting the video and audio. Like, I'm watching a Netflix movie, but it's interactive.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Okay.
So that would open up gaming to a lot more people then.
It would, yeah.
You wouldn't be limited by, like, how powerful your PC is or whatever.
Exactly. And it could lead to some really cool stuff for game design.
Yeah.
Developers could create these massive worlds that thousands of players could experience at the same time.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's, like, less about owning a physical copy of a game
Right.
and more about subscribing to a service.
Yeah, like Netflix, but for games.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. It sounds like a big shift.
It is. And as internet speeds get faster and faster,
Right.
and the cloud gets more powerful, I think cloud gaming is going to become the norm.
Yeah, it makes sense. But it's not just about the technology, right?
No, it's about what it allows us to do. Yeah, how it empowers both developers
Yes.
and ed players.
Exactly. More people can create games and more people can play them. I feel like we're at the beginning of a whole new era for gaming.
It really does feel that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what kind of games do you think will be possible in the future?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, with all these new tools and technology, I think we'll see even more creativity and innovation. It's not just about, making games with super realistic graphics.
Right.
It's about exploring new genres, new ways of telling stories, new ways to connect with players emotionally,
Yeah, it's about pushing the boundaries of what games can be.
Exactly.
And game engines are going to be a big part of that.
Oh, absolutely. They're the tools that will make all of this possible. So, yeah. Who knows what incredible worlds we'll get to experience.
That's a great point. And it's a question for our listeners to think about, too. What kind of games do you want to see in the future? It's something to ponder as we continue to explore this amazing world of game development. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into game engines. We hope you learned something new and that you're as excited about the future of gaming as we are. Until next time, keep playing and keep exploring.